You're advocates. And Republicans, we do. Now, I'm not saying that's true of the Democrats all across our country. I think there are a lot of Democrats like my mama and papa were Democrats, conservative Democrats who love their country. But the Democrats that we have in Washington, D.C., they are a different breed. And we cannot fool ourselves that something has gone fundamentally wrong in that party. Their reason for existing is to fight for fraud, to fight for corruption, and to fight for people who have no right to be in this country. And Michael Whatley and Lori Buckout, their reason for being is to fight for you. And that's why we're here today. Now, I have just a couple final thoughts, and I'll take a few questions from the media, and then we'll have to get on the road. So one final thought is, and Kelly knows this, Michael Whatley knows this. By the way, I forgot to say thank you to our great SBA administrator, Kelly Loeffler. Thank you, Kelly, for everything that you're doing. Kelly has already identified hundreds of millions of dollars of fraudulent payments and has cut that stuff out of our system. I think it'll be billions by the end of the year. She is fighting for you every single day, like all of us are trying to do in the Trump administration. And as Kelly knows, when you give a speech, you talk to people, and it's, I'm sure it's being televised right now because I am the vice president. The president, thank you. But the president always called me, and he'll always say, like, she talked about coal earlier. I've talked so many times about ending the war on coal. We've got great coal resources. And I'll come off stage and think I did a great job. And the president will call me and say, JD, did a great job, great speech, but it's not coal. It's clean, beautiful coal. So for the president, you got to know, his strong political advice is it's not coal anymore. It is clean, beautiful coal. But I actually was with the president earlier today in the Oval Office. We were talking about, a lot of issues that are going on. And he said, JD, tell the people in North Carolina two things. And I almost forgot this, and I was going to get in trouble. I was going to get one of those phone calls, Kelly. But the president said, tell the people in North Carolina two things. First of all, tell them I love them, and we're going to be with them every single step of the way. That was the first message from the president. So I've now delivered that. And tell them that they're great furniture industry. All the cabinetry, the beautiful craftsmanship that this region of our country was known for. Tell them that we are going to fight for that industry like never before. And if you're building something, if you're building a furniture facility, a furniture business right here in the state of North Carolina, we're going to cut your taxes. But if you're trying to bring in foreign furniture to undercut the jobs of the people in North Carolina, we're going to raise your taxes by 50%. We're going to put a big fat tariff on those foreign companies bringing that stuff into the United States. So, Mr. President, I've delivered that message too. I hope I get an A+ on this particular speech. But here, let me just leave you with one final thought. You heard Kelly and Michael, and everybody's talked about this. This is one of, as I know very personally, one of the proudest states for military leadership and military service anywhere in the country. And I know you all are proud of that, and you should be. We've got incredible bases from all across the services. We've got great Marine bases, Army bases, and so forth in the great state of North Carolina. And I know it's such an important part of the state, not just economically, that matters, but set to the side the dollars and cents. You all, raise your hand if you've served in the United States military. Let's give those guys a round of applause. So thank you to all of our veterans, a pretty good chunk of veterans just here in this audience. But here's the thing. You all know that right now we are engaged in a military operation to ensure, as the president has said repeatedly, that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. That is a simple principle and standard. Frankly, every president said that they believed it. Donald J. Trump has taken affirmative steps to ensure that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Now, but we also know that there are a lot of people from the state of North Carolina who are in harm's way right now. And so I want all of us, when we go home, we leave this event, I want all of us to say a prayer, not just for the North Carolinians, but for the people of all of our 50 states who put on the uniform and are willing to sacrifice for the safety and security and freedom of the United States of America. I want every single person, I want you to tell every single person who is serving overseas in harm's way that this crowd in North Carolina has their back. Thank you all. So with that, let me take a few questions from our media, and then I'll have to hit the road here. I'd like to start with the local reporters. We'll get time for the national folks if we got it.
Hi, I'm Danielle Battaglia. I'm with the News and Observer. You've spoken a lot today about Irina Zarutska's death, and that resulted in Operation Charlotte's Web. Senator Tom Tillis has asked a lot from the Department of Homeland Security about what happened with Operation Charlotte's Web. He said his questions are unanswered by DHS, and one of those questions is if American citizens were arrested during Operation Charlotte's Web. I was wondering if you could answer that today.
Well, look, Operation Charlotte's Web is fundamentally an operation to try to make our country safe. by getting violent criminals off the streets of the United States of America. Now, I was not aware that Tom Tillis, who's a friend of mine, he and I have had our disagreements, but Tom Tillis and I know each other. I'll go back and offer to speak with Tom about this. I didn't know that he said his questions had been unanswered by DHS. Now, that may be because he asked those questions a week ago and they haven't had time to answer them. You may have seen we've had a little bit of turnover in the Department of Homeland Security. But what I do promise Tom is that the new leadership at DHS is going to get him a response to his questions. But we're going to keep on using the Department of Homeland Security to do the very simple thing of making the homeland more secure. That's why it exists, and we're going to keep on doing that.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Bill Barrow with the Associated Press. What did you advise the president initially as he considered his actions in Iran, and what are you urging him to do now, especially with Americans seeing higher prices at the pump and some of the fallout from that across the economy? Do you express any concerns like those you've expressed in the past on the possibility of these extended wars?
Well, Bill, I appreciate the question. I know you guys have to ask it, but imagine the situation. We're in the situation room where you can't even take your iPod in there, or your AirPods, I guess what they're called. You can't take your iPhone in there. You can't take anything in there because it is the most classified space anywhere in the world. And I sit there with Pete Hegseth and General Kane and Marco Rubio and the entire White House team, and the president and I and the entire senior team are talking about the options and about what we need to do and about how we must best protect the American people. I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to show up here and in front of God and everybody else tell you exactly what I said in that classified room, partially because I don't want to go to prison, and partially because I think it's important for the president of the United States to be able to talk to his advisors without those advisors running their mouth to the American media. Thank you all. Now, that said, one thing I can promise you is that Chris Wright, our great Secretary of Energy, and Scott Bessent, our Secretary of the Treasury, have been running the administration's response to the economic element of this. Because we know, obviously, when the president takes action to make sure the American people are safe, we've got to do everything that we can to deal with the consequences of that economically. And it's not just oil. There's a whole host of things that we're focused on in the administration to try to ensure that we do the right thing by the American people. What the president has said very clearly is that he does not like higher oil prices, and neither do I. But he also believes that we're going to make the American people safer and that we're going to bring those prices at the pump back down to the levels they need to be for the American people. Now, here's the interesting thing. All this conversation happens